Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for another episode of Forbes Flash. A lot has happened this week, so let's dive into it. Is it just me, or do the Oscars feel like a million years ago, not just earlier this week? Well, with everything happening in Washington, D.C., I think I understand why. We will chat about our nation's capital later this episode. But before we get into the heavy stuff, I want to talk about a surprisingly enjoyable Oscars broadcast. Could it have been the lack of a host that kept things moving along at such a nice pace? The 91st Academy Awards only went into overtime by about 21 minutes, and listen to these ratings. Around 29.6 million people tuned in to watch Hollywood's biggest night, with a 7.7 rating among adults 18 to 49. That's 3.1 million more viewers from last year's Jimmy Kimmel hosted show, which saw record low viewership. It seems like the folks at home were just fine without a guide getting them through the transitions of the night. So, could the Academy decide to go hostless again in 2020? If they don't, might I recommend the trio of Maya Rudolph, Amy Poehler, and Tina Fey? Thanks. Okay, and now, as promised, let's chat about what's been going on in DC this week. Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen testified before the Committee on Oversight and Reform about his former boss, and man, he didn't hold back. One of the topics? Trump's obsession with the Forbes 400 ranking and lobbying to improve his ranking. It's a saga that's been going on for more than 30 years, believe it or not. Cohen has had a front row seat for part of Trump's long-running crusade to appear richer than he is. In 2012, Cohen was with Trump as he met with a Forbes reporter to haggle over the estimates. In 2015, just a couple months after Trump launched his campaign, Cohen was one of several Trump subordinates who spoke with Forbes about the numbers. As a reminder, Trump is listed at $3.1 billion in our latest Forbes 400 ranking. Also happening in DC this week, executives from 7 of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the US faced questions from members of the Senate Finance Committee Tuesday about drug prices. For many of the executives, the senators are familiar faces. That's because their companies have contributed some $1.6 million to the campaign committees of 27 out of 28 current members of the Finance Committee. That's according to FEC filings from 2009 through the end of 2018 that looked at donations made by PACs of AbbVie, AstraZeneca, Bristol-Myers Squibb, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Pfizer, and Sanofi. According to a spokesman for Committee Chairman Senator Chuck Grassley, quote, "Political donations have no bearing on how Chairman Grassley runs the Finance Committee." And because we can't escape political news this week, here's another chapter in the Elon Musk Securities and Exchange Commission drama. The federal judge overseeing the settlement between the SEC and Musk has given the billionaire entrepreneur 2 weeks to prove he didn't violate terms of their October 2018 deal. The agreement, you'll remember, came as a result of Musk's tweet that he had funding secured to take Tesla private that turned out to be inaccurate. And the purported violation? Failing to have a tweet about Tesla production reviewed before he posted it to his nearly 25 million followers. Musk's response? That the tweet reiterated information previously given on Tesla's January 30th earnings call. The potential punishment for violating the deal is unclear. Tweet wisely, Elon. Alright, now for a different kind of news. Big news for those of you who follow esports. The Berlin-based esports organization G2 Esports has raised $17.3 million in a Series A funding round, bringing its total outside backing to $24.6 million. Co-founder and CEO Carlos Rodriguez was just featured on the Forbes 30 Under 30 in Europe list for sports and games. Now, the young leader and his team are eyeing global expansion to further take advantage of what's predicted to be a billion-dollar industry by the end of the year. If you haven't been paying attention, it's time to start now. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. Share your feedback using #ForbesFlash, and we'll see you next week.